Picture a single fence line so long that walking it non-stop, day and night, would take you the better part of a week. That's not an exaggeration. That's Tuesday morning on one Texas ranch you're about to meet. Last time on Stellar Eureka, we uncovered 10 farms so massive they rival entire nations. This time, we're going further still, into an empire older than Australia's founding as a country. A cattle ranch quietly owned by a church, and a trading business built from a single wagon of wheat that now helps decide what half the planet eats. By the end of this list, you'll never look at a supermarket shelf, a leather truck seat, or a bottle of orange juice the same way again. Let's get into it. Number 1. Ask Kidman Co, South Australia. Somewhere out past the horizon of an Australian cattle station, the fence line still hasn't ended, and it won't for 3 more days of driving. At its height, Ask Kidman Co controlled holdings estimated at somewhere between 85,000 and 107,000 square miles, spread across 11 stations in 4 states and territories. And some historical estimates push that figure even higher. Founded in 1899 by a drover named Sidney Kidman, who ran away from home at just 13 years old and built his fortune from nothing but a bullock team and a sharp eye for undervalued land. The company grew into the largest private landholding on the planet, earning Kidman the nickname the Cattle King. Kidman's genius wasn't just acquisition, it was geography. He bought stations in a chain running from the tropical north to the cooler south, tracking the paths of Australia's great inland flood system so that when drought hit one region, cattle could be walked along the network to greener country hundreds of miles away. It turned an unforgiving desert into a functioning, self-correcting machine. And other pastoral families across the outback would spend decades trying to copy his model. The empire didn't last forever. By 2015, the remaining 11 stations covered a little over 38,000 square miles, and the family put the whole operation up for sale. When Chinese buyers tried to acquire it, the Australian government blocked the deal on national interest grounds, and the company eventually passed to mining magnate Gina Rinehart's Hancock Prospecting. Today, what's left of Kidman & Co. has been sold down to just 4 leases. An empire built to outlast drought could not outlast time itself. And the land remembers the shape of ambition long after the boundary fences come down. Number 2. King Ranch, Texas. 2 hours down a single Texas highway, and the same cattle brand is still burned into every fence post along the road. King Ranch covers 825,000 acres, an area larger than the entire state of Rhode Island, split across 6 South Texas counties. It was founded in 1853 when steamboat captain Richard King fell in love with a patch of land along Santa Gertrudis Creek and bought it for $300. What makes King Ranch legendary isn't just its size. It was what was born there. In the early 20th century, ranch managers crossed heat-hardy Brahman cattle from India with British Shorthorns, creating the Santa Gertrudis, the first cattle breed ever developed in the United States. That breed proved so successful that by the 1950s, King Ranch was exporting it worldwide, establishing sister ranches in Cuba, Australia, Brazil, and Argentina. At the company's peak, its combined holdings around the globe reached an estimated 11.5 million acres. The ranch built an empire beyond cattle, too. Oil turned up while wildcatters explored the property in the 1930s, funding decades of expansion. Its horses ran in the Kentucky Derby, and one of its thoroughbreds, Assault, won the Triple Crown in 1946. Even today, the King Ranch name lives on far beyond South Texas, stitched into the leather seats of a certain pickup truck badge that carries its brand across American highways, while the original ranch itself now welcomes visitors on guided tours through its historic headquarters. Number 3. Waggoner Ranch, Texas. Somewhere beneath the surface of this Texas ranch sits one of the richest oil deposits in state history, though the family who found it wasn't even looking for oil. The Waggoner Ranch spans roughly 535,000 acres, making it the single largest ranch in the United States enclosed entirely within one continuous fence, and the second largest ranch in Texas after King Ranch itself. It was founded in the early 1850s by Daniel Waggoner, who arrived with little more than a few head of cattle and a teenage helper. For decades, the Waggoner family only wanted water. Every well they drilled instead struck oil, a discovery W.T. Waggoner reportedly found more irritating than exciting, since it meant less grazing land and more headaches. Eventually, the family embraced it, and the ranch became one of the rare properties in America built equally on cattle and crude, hosting notable guests over the decades including Theodore Roosevelt and cowboy humorist Will Rogers. 16 separate camps divide the ranch into manageable sections, each one larger than many small towns. Thousands of cattle, hundreds of horses, and more than 1,000 oil wells operate side by side across 6 counties, alongside a modern 367 megawatt wind farm that now spins above the same land where cowboys have worked cattle for over 170 years. In 2016, after more than 160 years in the Waggoner family, the ranch was sold to NFL and NBA owner Stan Kroenke for $725 million, along with a promise to keep it whole. A single fence line, stretching further than most people will walk in a week, is a strange kind of monument, built not to keep the world out, but to hold an entire way of life together. Number 4. Deseret Ranches, Florida. An alligator slides past in a roadside canal, while a few yards away, a cow chews grass with a tiny computer chip tucked inside its ear. Deseret Ranches spans nearly 300,000 acres between Orlando and the Space Coast, making it the largest cow-calf cattle operation east of the Mississippi River. It has been owned since 1950 by the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, purchased as a long-term investment rather than a religious project. And the ranch pays local, state, and federal taxes just like any other business. What began as a 50,000 acres of cutover timberland and swamp quickly grew 6-fold, as engineers drained wetlands, built roads, and imported cattle breeds suited to Florida's brutal heat and humidity. Today, the ranch supports more than 40,000 cattle divided into over a dozen management units, alongside roughly 200,000 citrus trees, active timber harvesting, and solar installations spread across the property. One of its water retention projects, a 500-acre reservoir built decades ago, has even won a state environmental leadership award for improving water quality. Florida's wild weather brings its own dangers. Lightning strikes kill roughly 1% of the herd every year, more than any predator on the land. Water management is a constant balancing act in a state that's nearly half wetland. And as Orlando's suburbs creep steadily closer, the ranch now faces pressure to sell off pieces for housing development, a slow squeeze between agriculture and America's fastest-growing metro areas. Number 5. Australian Agricultural Company. This cattle station was already collecting profits when Australia was still a patchwork of British penal colonies. The Australian Agricultural Company, known simply as AACO, was founded in 1824 by an Act of the British Parliament, making it the oldest continuously operating company in Australia, 200 years and counting. AACO began as a sheep and coal venture on the New South Wales coast, mining Newcastle's coal seams for decades before shifting entirely to cattle in the early 20th century, after wartime labor shortages made wool production impractical. Today, the company owns and operates roughly 6.5 million hectares across Queensland and the Northern Territory, close to 1% of the entire Australian continent, making it the country's largest integrated cattle and beef producer. Its herd numbers in the hundreds of thousands, raised across dozens of stations before moving through the company's own feedlots and processing facilities. AACO pioneered branded Wagyu beef production in Australia, building brands like Westholme and Darling Downs into an export business that now reaches restaurants and grocery shelves in more than 20 countries. Ownership has shifted over 2 centuries, from British aristocrats to Australian shareholders to its current majority stakeholder, the investment vehicle of British billionaire Joe Louis. 200 years of droughts, depressions, and changing owners have passed over this land, and the cattle are still walking the same paddocks their ancestors grazed when the company's first charter was still wet with ink. Number 6. Cresud, Argentina and beyond. Drive far enough across the South American farm and a national border passes underfoot without a single checkpoint in sight. Cresud, an Argentine agricultural company, controls close to 800,000 hectares of farmland spread across Argentina, Brazil, Paraguay, and Bolivia. An operation so vast that its property lines quietly cross international borders. Founded from a small landholding of just 20,000 hectares in the 1990s and rapidly expanding with early financial backing from billionaire investor George Soros, Cresud grew into one of South America's largest farmland companies and remains the only agricultural firm listed on both the Buenos Aires Stock Exchange and New York's NASDAQ. The company grows soybeans, corn, wheat, and sugarcane, and raises cattle across its sprawling portfolio, while also holding a major stake in Brazilian farmland company Brasileiro and in Argentina's largest real estate developer, which owns some of Buenos Aires' biggest shopping malls. Few companies blend farmland and skyscrapers under one balance sheet quite like this one, weathering years of currency instability that have wiped out smaller competitors, including a former rival that collapsed under nearly $400 million of debt in 2024. That scale has come with scrutiny. Environmental groups have linked Cresud's expansion to the clearing of large stretches of the Gran Chaco, one of South America's largest forest ecosystems, an area shared by Argentina, Paraguay, Bolivia, and Brazil, that's home to indigenous communities and disappearing wildlife. The company continues to expand its footprint even as conservationists raise alarms about the pace of deforestation in the region. A farm that spans 4 countries stops feeling like a piece of land and starts feeling like a claim on the map itself, redrawn one cleared hectare at a time. Number 7. Sime Darby Plantation, Malaysia and Indonesia. Palm fronds close overhead in every direction, the air thick and sweet with fermenting fruit, and the plantation doesn't end at the horizon. Sime Darby Plantation controls roughly 568,000 hectares of oil palm across Malaysia, Indonesia, and beyond, making it one of the largest single owners of palm oil plantations on Earth. The company traces its roots back to a British colonial trading firm founded in 1910, later restructured under Malaysian government-linked investment. And today it runs 68 palm oil mills and 11 kernel crushing plants to process what its trees produce. Palm oil is easy to overlook and impossible to avoid. It shows up in roughly half of all packaged products on a typical supermarket shelf, from soap and shampoo to chocolate and instant noodles. Prized because a single hectare of oil palm produces far more oil than almost any competing crop on Earth. That efficiency comes at a cost that has made the industry one of the most scrutinized in modern agriculture. Palm expansion across Southeast Asia has been tied to the clearing of rainforest that once sheltered orangutans, tigers, and elephants. In response, Sime Darby has positioned itself as the world's largest producer of independently certified sustainable palm oil, working with international certification bodies in an industry-wide effort to prove that plantation and rainforest can coexist. Number 8. Weyerhaeuser, United States. Rows of trees rise overhead that were planted decades before anyone alive today will get to see them cut down. Weyerhaeuser owns or controls roughly 10.4 million acres of timberland across the United States, making it the largest private timberland owner in the country, with millions more acres managed under long-term license in Canada. Founded in 1900 when timber baron Frederick Weyerhaeuser purchased 900,000 acres of Washington forest from railroad magnate James J. Hill, the company treats trees the way other farms treat wheat or corn. Seedlings are planted within a year of harvest, thinned as they mature, and eventually cut on rotations that can stretch from 20 to 60 years depending on the species and region. In 2016, Weyerhaeuser merged with rival Plum Creek Timber in a deal worth $8.4 billion, briefly pushing its combined holdings above 13 million acres and cementing its position as the largest private timberland owner in the nation. Because the growing cycle is so long, Weyerhaeuser has learned to extract value from its land in every direction at once. Beyond lumber and pulp, the company now operates as a real estate investment trust, leasing its acreage for mineral exploration, wind and solar energy projects, hunting access, and carbon credit programs, treating the forest as a renewable asset rather than a one-time harvest. A farm where the crop takes half a human lifetime to mature forces a kind of patience most industries have forgotten, planting today for a return that belongs to someone else's future. Number 9. COFCO, China. A single company decides, more than almost any elected official, how much grain reaches nearly a fifth of the human race. COFCO, formerly known as the China National Cereals, Oils, and Foodstuffs Corporation, is a state-owned agribusiness giant founded in 1949, the same year the People's Republic of China itself was established. Its founding mission was simple: make sure the country never runs short of food again. What started as a single grain import office has grown into a global agricultural machine, handling roughly 180 million tons of grain, oilseeds, and sugar every year across nearly 40 countries. A pivotal 2014 expansion, when COFCO acquired international trading firms Noble Agri and Nidera, transformed it from a domestic supplier into a genuine global player, now ranking alongside the world's largest private grain traders, a group that together controls the overwhelming majority of international agricultural commerce. COFCO alone answers directly to the Chinese state. Its reach extends into everyday brands most people never connect to a government ministry, including Mengniu, one of China's largest dairy companies, and Great Wall, one of the country's best-known wine producers. Ports, rail lines, storage terminals, and processing plants across multiple continents feed grain both into China and out to the rest of the world, forming trade corridors that now stretch along the Belt and Road Initiative and give Beijing a lever over global food supply that few other nations can match. Number 10. Louis Dreyfus Company, Global Operations. In 1851, an 18-year-old loads a farm cart with wheat and walks it 8 miles across a border, chasing a better price than his hometown can offer. That teenager was Leopold Dreyfus, and the business he started that year with nothing but a wagon and an eye for arbitrage became Louis Dreyfus Company, one of the 4 trading houses that today move the majority of the world's grain, sugar, cotton, coffee, and rice. The company operates in more than 100 countries, employing close to 20,000 people across 6 continents, without owning a single sprawling ranch or plantation to call its centerpiece. Instead, Louis Dreyfus built its empire on logistics: ports, ships, storage silos, and processing plants that connect farmers on one side of the planet to grocery shelves on the other. It became one of the first trading houses in the world to embrace futures contracts back in 1883, a tool still central to how global commodity markets manage risk today. It is now the world's largest trader of both cotton and rice, and one of the biggest names in global sugar, running orange groves across roughly 25,000 acres of Brazil that alone supply around 10% of the world's orange juice concentrate. The family that built it survived a war, revolution, and exile, rebuilding the business from scratch more than once, including after Nazi occupation forced much of the family to flee France entirely. In 2020, the company sold a large stake to a state investment fund from the United Arab Emirates, tying a 170-year-old European trading house to a nation racing to secure its long-term food supply. An empire that began with one teenager and a farm cart now moves enough of the world's food that entire nations quietly depend on its ships arriving on schedule. 10 more mega farms, and every single one proves the same thing. Scale alone doesn't build an empire. Patience does. Whether that means walking cattle across a drought-proof network for 50 years, waiting 6 decades for a tree to mature, or turning a single wagon of wheat into ships crossing every ocean on Earth. Which of these caught you most off guard? The church quietly running one of America's biggest cattle ranches? Or the 18-year-old who built a trading empire now feeding entire continents? Tell us in the comments, and let us know if there should be a part 3. If this video into the world's most staggering agricultural empires kept you glued to the screen, hit like, subscribe, and pass it along to the person in your life who still pictures a farm as 40 acres and a red barn. This is Stellar Eureka, signing off.